Ruth Rose said. I'll have a strawberry cone, please. One scoop. How about you, Dink? Mavis asked. I'm not hungry, thanks, he said. But you guys go ahead. I'm going to call the airport. Dink felt guilty if he hadn't invited Wallace Wallace to Greenlawn. His favorite author would be safe at home in his castle in Maine. But Dink couldn't help feeling excited, too. He felt like a detective from one of Wallace Wallace's books. Dink stepped into the phone booth, looked up the number for the New England Airlines, and called. When a voice came on, he asked if Wallace Wallace had been aboard Flight 3132. He was? Did it land at 7 o'clock? Dink asked. Thanks a lot. He rushed out of the phone booth. Hey, guys, they told me Wallace Wallace was on the plane, and it landed right on time. So he didn't miss his flight, Ruth Rose said through strawberry pink lips. That's right. Dink pulled out the itinerary. He drew a line through the airport. This is so exciting, Ruth Rose said. Now what? Josh asked, working on a double dipper. Dink pointed to the next circle on the itinerary. Now we need to find out if a taxi picked him up, he said. Lawrence Taxi's over by the river, Ruth Rose said. Dink looked at Mavis. Would you like to come with us? We can walk there in 5 minutes. Mavis wiped her lips carefully with a napkin. I'd love to come, she said in her soft voice. They left Ellie's Diner, left on Bridge Lane, and then headed down Woodview Road toward the river. So this would kind of be a point where I would look back in the book at the map and see where they're going. Mr. Paskey looked pretty upset, didn't he? Josh said, crunching the last of his cone. His chin was green. Wouldn't you be upset if you had a bunch of customers at your store waiting to meet a famous author and he didn't show up? Ruth Rose asked. Yeah, but he was sweating buckets, Josh said. I wonder if Mr. Paskey kidnapped Mr. Wallace. So I'm going to stop there, sweating buckets, right? That's kind of the funny part here. This is some figurative language on there. It says he was sweating buckets. So it just means he's sweating a lot. Josh, get real. Why would Mr. Paskey kidnap an author, asked Ruth Rose. He sells tons of Wallace Wallace books. I don't think Mr. Paskey's the kidnapper, Dink said. But in a way, Josh is right. Detectives should consider everyone as a suspect, just the way they do in Wallace Wallace books. At River Road, they turned left. 2 minutes later, Dink pushed open the door of the Lawrence Taxi Service office. He asked a man behind the counter if one of their drivers had met Flight 3132 at Bradley Airport the previous night. The man ran his finger down a list on a clipboard. That would be Maureen Higgins. She's out back eating her lunch, he said, pointing over his shoulder. Walk straight through. They cut through the building to a grassy area in the back. Through the trees, Dink could see the Indian River. The sun reflected off the water like bright coins. A woman was sitting at a picnic table eating a sandwich and filling in a crossword puzzle. Excuse me, are you Maureen Higgins? Dink asked. The woman shook her head without looking up. Nope, I'm Marilyn Monroe. The woman wrote in another letter. Then she looked up. She had the merriest blue eyes Dink had ever seen. Yeah, cutie pie, I'm Maureen. She pointed to her sandwich at Dink. And who might you be? I'm Dink Duncan, he said. These are my friends, Josh, Ruth Rose, and Mavis. We wondered if you could help us, Ruth Rose said. There's a picture of her here, and she's eating a sandwich, filling in her crossword puzzle. Sounds like she is a jokester saying she's Marilyn Monroe. She was a famous actress. Maureen stared at them. How? Did you pick up a man named Wallace Wallace last night at the airport? Dink asked. Maureen squinted one of her blue eyes. Why do you want to know? Because he's missing, Josh said. Well, I'm sure I ain't got him. Maureen took a bite out of her sandwich. Mayonnaise oozed out of onto her fingers. I know. I mean, we didn't think you had him, Dink said, but you did pick him up. Maureen nodded, swallowing. Sure, I picked him up. 7 o'clock sharp. I was there with my sign saying Wallace. The guy spots me, trots over. I take him out to my taxi. He climbs in carrying a small suitcase. Kind of a spooky guy. He was dressed in a hat, long raincoat, and sunglasses. Sunglasses at night. Doesn't speak a word, just sits. Spooky. Did you take him to the Shangri-La Hotel? Dink asked. Yep, those were my orders. Guy didn't have to give directions, but it would have been nice if he said something, pass the time. A lot of people, they just chat to act friendly. Not this one. Quiet as a mouse in the back seat. Maureen wiped mayonnaise from her fingers and lips. Who is this Wallace fella anyway? He's a famous writer, Ruth Rose said. Maureen's mouth fell open. You mean I had a celebrity in my cab and I never knew it? What happened when you got to the hotel? Josh asked. Maureen stood up, tossed her napkin in the trash. I get out on my side, then I open his door. He hops out, hands me a 20. Last I seen, he's scooting into the lobby. Dink pulled out the itinerary and crossed out taxi with a thick black line. Then he drew a question mark next to hotel. Thanks a lot, Miss Higgins, he said. Come on, guys. I got a feeling we're getting closer to finding Wallace Wallace. Maureen put her hand on Dink's arm. I just thought of something, she said. When he handed me that fare, this Wallace fellow was smiling. Dink stared at Maureen. Smiling? She nodded. Yep. He had a silly grin on his face like he knew some big secret or something. Oh, boy. But there you go. This taxi driver has given us just a little bit more clue. So we kind of get a glimpse into what Wallace looks like. And we kind of know what Wallace is dressed like and what Wallace does, which is basically says nothing but smiles after a $20 tip given to the driver. So this would be a good spot to take a look at your clues or write some clues in. Maybe think forward on, maybe who your possible suspects still are or who the suspects are not now. So anyway, that is the end of chapter 4. And we will go on with chapter 5 here pretty soon. Enjoy, guys.